So you were on the panel last time, correct? So you know, you remember the format.
So we'll go down the link with everybody doing like their own little bit of presentation, and then we'll get on, depending on time. Okay, well, we get it to 6 o'clock. I think the weather's probably. Devin, am I connected? It says recording, so am I up? I'm up and running. Okay, welcome everyone. I think we're going to be a little light on audience members. The weather isn't cooperating much today, so.
And Kansas City Chiefs are playing.
Pardon?
Kansas City Chiefs are playing.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Kansas City.
Yeah, I didn't know I had. I know we have to adjust for the Huskies and the Seahawks, but we have to do it for everybody.
Super Bowl winners.
Okay. So, welcome everyone. Announcements. Do we have any announcements of anything? The only announcement I have, and for those people who are online, is actually, we're going to have the board elections as the next item, so forget that. I do want to refer people to the back of the agenda, where we have all of this useful information about contacts and board members, and as somebody pointed out to us, trees. So we always have the various connections, and I think Tacoma Tree Foundation also has put something out on the tables, if I'm correct. Yes? So, and those of you that are online, we will post, that is, if you go on to we'll repost that information on the website. So, approval of minutes. We don't have the minutes from last meeting, so we're going to hold that over. The treasurer's report, the board will be discussing the treasury at our next board meeting, which we're having next week. I'd like to move into the elections. So under our bylaws, the board has elections in November for 2-year terms, and we elect half the board 1 year and then half the board the next year. So last year, we elected Jody, Georgette, Toby, Jeff, and Danielle. So they still have 1 year left in their term. We are, in the last year, we appointed Bonnie O'Neill. Is Bonnie in the room? She's no, she's not. Her husband is having some surgery. So she was appointed to fill out a term. So she'll be standing for an election. And myself, Alex, and Joe are standing for re-election. Are there any other nominations from the floor for anybody else? And if you're embarrassed about standing for a nomination, please reach out to us, because we do have open positions and can always appoint into those positions. So, not seeing any further nominations, can I have a vote in favor of the 4 people who are standing for re-election? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So thank you for reappointing us. Moving on to our standard liaison reports, we'll start off with the police, and then we'll move into the city managers.
Good evening, Officer Brazil, Officer Wallen, your community liaison officers. We don't have a whole lot to update you guys on tonight, so we'll just touch on a few key things. We've talked about it several times at these meetings, but we're continuing our efforts on our project for Westgate North and Westgate South at North 26th and Pearl, so basically North 21st to North 30th on Pearl, the Westgate Shopping Centers, all 62 businesses there where the Safeway is and the Big Lots and things like that. We're continuing our efforts there to keep the unwanted loiterers and the trespassers.
You gotta be closer to the mic.
Better. It's like taller than me. Can somebody give me a step stool? And the chronic trespassers out of that area and just trying to maintain all the work that we've done down there, trying to keep that area cleaned up and whatnot. Obviously, Halloween's over, the holidays are here, daylight savings, it's darker sooner, the weather's turning, lots of people are gonna be out and about for the holiday shopping and the holiday season, so just a reminder, don't leave anything in your cars, please. If you guys go shopping and stuff, lock everything up in your trunks, don't leave things in the back seat or visible. Car prowls and things like that are crimes of opportunity, so we want you guys to be safe. Same with packages. I'm sure Amazon's gonna start delivering to your guys' house every day or every other day like my house. And so make sure that you guys are able to grab your packages, and if you're not, maybe a neighbor can help you out, or you guys can do lock boxes and stuff like that. Amazon offers that. So other than that, do you have anything? No. We had an arrest Thursday of one of the main players in the Kia Boys group that was kind of wreaking havoc all over the North End for the last 2 weeks. So that was a big deal. And so that's some good news. But other than that, I think that's it.
Mhm.
Yes.
How's recruiting going?
Recruiting is going full force. As a matter of fact, this past Saturday, we had a hiring workshop. Lost my train of thought there for a second. For the candidates that are coming into and are in like the application process right now. I think it was a pretty good turnout. But we're still continuing our efforts. We have a whole recruiting team that recruits all over Washington, all over the state, and then out of the state as well. And we're still offering our lateral bonus for lateral police officers to come over. And so that's a good incentive package as well, but it's going full force. I don't have the numbers, but I'm sure we'll be getting that shared with us here probably in the next month or so. As it nears the end of the year, they kind of start giving us the total numbers of hires. So we'll be able to share those probably with you at the next meeting, but it's been going pretty well. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay.
We'll see you in a little bit.
Awesome.
Next, Christina.
Maybe I need to hold on with it. Can you hear me okay? Okay. No. Oh. I'll speak
Oh, yeah. You actually.
loud. I'm more into the mic, not speaking on the microphone. My name is Christina Khan. I'm your city manager liaison. And I just have a couple quick things to flag for you all tonight. I don't see Councilmember Rumbaugh or Deputy Mayor Hines here yet. I don't want to steal their thunder. I know they really like to share all the great things they're working on with you all. So I'll let them, if they come later, maybe they can share a little bit more about their current updates. But I did want to flag for everyone. I know home in Tacoma is a very hot topic these days. We have just posted a new frequently asked questions page on our website. You just go to cityoftacoma.org and you can find it there. This has basically all the current information on home in Tacoma, as well as all of the amendments that the council members have brought forward. So that is up to date, posted just today. And then just to keep in mind as well, the final reading on home in Tacoma will be on November 19th. And then I did just want to flag tomorrow at study session for the council members. They'll be talking about the Streets Initiative 2. So I know that's another topic of a lot of interest. So if you can either come down to council chambers or log on for to watch that conversation, that'll be a really great one. And then on Friday, the council will be having a special meeting to discuss the budget. There's a lot of great information up on the website right now about the budget. There's a budget balancing tool that you can play around with yourself to see some of the trade-offs that get made in the budget. And of course, if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to Peter and he can reach out to me or reach out to me directly. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Christina?
Just a comment, the being able to play with the budget is an excellent idea to recommend to people who are always complaining about this or that. Because I would imagine that also those changes get reflected somehow, so you get some insight into what people would really like versus not like. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, it's such an important thing to understand right now for the city, especially because we do have a budget deficit. And so a lot of the programs that the council members or the community want to bring forward are going to entail trade-offs in our budget so that we can keep a balanced budget. So that tool can really help sort of highlight how if you want to put more money towards our police officers, you've got to take money from, looks like our council members have arrived. So, but yeah, thank you.
Just a real simple question. What's the trend of the budget? Do you have that, or is that available on the website? In other words, what is the anticipated income next year as opposed to last year and opposed to the previous 5 years? What's our budget trend? Do we have a trend of further city income, less income, or the same?
So I can get you all of those graphs. They're all up on the city website under our budget web page. And they've got estimated trajectories that are really nicely done, great graphs. So I can get that all for you and send it over to you. Sure.
So Sarah, you walked in just in time for your writing.
Ready for the hot seat?
No John tonight?
No, he's gonna be a little late. So
Okay.
I'll just apologize for him right now.
So we are taping and we are have people online. So if you speak into the microphone, you're up.
So good night, good night, I mean, good evening, I should say, so I haven't left yet, but Councilmember Rumba, and it's really nice to be here tonight. I'm not feeling quite myself tonight, it's not a little under the weather, but I just, I wanted to show up because I'm certain that there's questions that you have about our last council meeting, because we were talking about home in Tacoma too. And I feel comfortable enough to field some questions, but the thing that I really would like to talk about is preservation of trees, which was ripped out of the plan, and I did not vote for that. And it's like one of the planning commissioners said that we can't talk about a house without it being a home, and a home is a place that has those amenities that you're looking for, and that also includes trees, sidewalks, and the things that you're looking for to create that environment. And so not talking about trees as part of our plan doesn't seem very, for me, what I want to see. And so one of the things I'm working on is a piece that would, because I got overruled on including undeveloped property, but we're talking about developed property and making sure that trees that are a certain size are looked at differently and protected in a different way. And so that would mean that if someone wanted to take one out to do development, they'd have to replace it at a certain level. And I'm really looking for people to get trees in the ground, not give us money necessarily. Money's nice, but I'd rather see the trees planted. And that's the plan that I have is for you can pay for the canopy loss, or you can go ahead and find a place for those trees. And if it's not on the property, they can't all fit on the property, then you find a place and we do a conservation easement. So that's what I'm bringing forward to my other council members. And I think I have agreement on that from many of them. So I'd like to see that pass. Hopefully at our next November, I think it's the 19th is our next meeting that we'll be together, when we'll be passing the home in Tacoma 2, and that will be an amendment to that. So I just wanted, well, that would be local voting. I think it's correct. But anyway, so that's something I wanted to bring forward for you. So, yes.
On the original, I don't know, last spring when we saw plans, there was a requirement for trees on property.
There is still a requirement for trees. So you're welcome to pay a fee in lieu of to get to a certain level, but you have to have a certain percentage on every single lot that we develop. Right, so that there will be. And then there's also, when you go to develop property, that means you have to plant trees in the right of way. If there weren't trees in the right of way, we have a policy on that. We also, if you're gonna take trees out of the right of way, we have a permit you have to get and you have to pay a fee. So that's something that's new that we passed this last year. And I would like to see you have a fee if you're planning to take a larger tree off your property. I think other cities, other counties have it, other states have it. We're just behind the times because we have a history of warehouser here. And I think we're afraid to do the hard things. And I just want to tell you, I'm not afraid to do the hard things. So, yes. Hi, Jody.
Hi, Sarah. So just to clarify, there's no protection for large mature trees at this point. Is that correct?
Right, unless they're in the right way. Right, there's nothing. I know.
Well, thank you for all of your efforts.
I'm trying and I want to shed tears because I think there are things in our city that are really special and it takes a long time for a tree to get to 24 inches or bigger. We're talking 30 years. So I think that that's something worth looking at and thinking about. So are there any other questions? Kit, oh, he always has hard questions for me. Let me see if I can answer it. I'll try.
Well, I was looking at the Seattle tree requirement. And when they list the trees there, they start out with the large trees on their table first, then the medium trees, then the small trees. And I would like to know where to suggest that we take our listing of trees and invert them. So the first thing you look at are large trees in terms of this is the urban forest, so you look at those first. Because I've looked at a number of projects that have been done recently in the city. I've looked at the species of the trees, and the developers always seem to go to the small and medium trees. And my recommendation to the council would be to eliminate small trees. Now, you probably heard me before talk about Tacoma as a place for tiny trees. Go out to Tacoma Mall and you look at those trees by JCPenney. They've been there for 60 years. They're tiny trees. And we have tiny trees throughout the city. And it's like not providing trees. They don't provide any heat cover.
I agree.
And the second thing is, I've mentioned this before to several council members, is that because each unit uses so many trees to build them, all of these, that why not just require one tree per bedroom?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it makes it real simple. You don't have to do algebra. It's not an algebra story problem. It's like you provide one tree, like you say in a water basin or something. And, you know, I can give you an example. I did the math on 6th and Alder. They have 155 units there. Now, $750 per tree, that's like $78,000 or so roughly. That sounds like a lot of money, you know, it would be. But it's really not a lot when that project was actually built for $30 million. And then it was sold 4 years later for $46 million. So I know from my experience as an architect that $78,000 is a bidding here. Yeah. So anyway, that's just a simple suggestion.
Thank you. Anything else? Hi.
So we've written comments, turned up to meetings, given all of this input, and we're not seeing it coming out we're not seeing significant changes in the regulations as they stand. What advice do you give with us? Are we just NENC, you've tried, you failed,
So I
you know,
don't
come
think,
back,
yeah.
or tell us,
I don't
tell us
think you-
what
I
should we
don't-
be doing? Because
Yeah.
it seems that we haven't hit the ears of the decision makers, because nothing has really changed despite all of our, what I thought were positive, good arguments given in a positive, non-confrontational way.
Well, Peter, I think that you all had really good suggestions. And I think that our home in Tacoma 2 plan may not include everything that you wanted, but I think that we're gonna get where you want on some of this stuff. And I think where you need to pay attention is on the preservation ordinance that they've yanked out of home in Tacoma 2 and done separate. That's gonna be where you wanna take what you're suggesting for preservation and see if it overlaps with what you're talking about. And I do think that the voice of the North End, that has been important to me because the reason that we looked at watersheds was I want to make sure that trees that come out in the North End go back in the North End. And the way we can make sure of that is to put them in the watershed area. So, I mean, that it is a part of what we're talking about. I had other people on my council that felt like we should be using the equity index and make sure that, well, places like the east side would get the trees that needed to be put in for like my conservation easements, that they would put them on the east side. And I was like, no, where the trees are taken out is where they should be put back in. So you did have a part in that because every time I came here and everyone who's come to meetings and everyone who came to our meetings, the public comment, everything you say, we read and we care about what you say. It's just measuring it in something where your goal is to get more housing. But I don't think you can't get more housing without getting more trees. And that's where I am with this. And the only way you do that, I think, is making sure that we get the trees in the ground as soon as the development happens. That we don't sit with money sitting over here trying to decide what we're gonna do with it. My experience has been, let's get the developer to put them in the ground. Let's get like a conservation easement. It's a legal document. It says they have to do this. And then there's a way to enforce it. Because we have a list of what you're supposed to do, what it's supposed to look like, you have to take care of them. And we have a way to follow up on that. So for me, every time that you submit any kind of comments, we all read them and we know it's important. It's just also the goal based on, I know you wanted it to be like a House Bill 1110, but when House Bill 1110 came out, everyone was against that as well. So I just want to say, in some way, let's see how this goes. And if it's not working, come back to us and tell us what's not working about it so we can fix that. But we haven't even gotten it off the ground yet. It's going to take several years for things to happen, and it's not going to be every lot that gets developed. There's no way every lot could get developed. My biggest concern is that we don't end up having permitted parking all over our city because people are like, there's not enough places to park. I'm just going to get permitted parking. So that's one of my biggest concerns is permitted parking creates like a tension between the different uses. So if it's a business district and we create a permitted parking area next door, then that business district is fighting with the neighbors all the time about where are people going to park when they come to this business district. So I just want to throw that out there. And I probably didn't answer all of the questions, but did my best. Anything else? Did everyone already vote?
Yeah.
All right, did you all vote yes for the fire levy? Okay. Very good group of people. If you have not voted and you have questions on the charter amendments, I want you to know that I support all of the charter amendments. We only had 4, but if there was any questions you had about any of them, I'd love to answer your questions. But thank you so much for having me today, Karen.
I'm sorry, I think we forgot to applaud the police and Christina as well, so. Next, I'd like to invite John and Annika up. We're got an update on the Cushman plan, the Cushman and Adams plan.
So just one microphone if you can
Okay,
flip
well,
between the
yeah,
two.
we're just, here, I'll hang out over here, so it's fine.
Awesome. Good evening. I'm always grateful to hear from all of the liaisons. I do want to give a special shout out to our police department. I was out of town last week for a day and there was someone creeping through our backyard. We live probably 5 minutes in the north end from here. And my wife called me at like 2 in the morning. And I said, you need to call the police. And they showed up and my son, we have 3 kids. My son, he's 3 years old. He has been Spider-Man every year, has a Spider-Man he carries everywhere with him. And this year he said, I want to be a police officer. So he was this cute little police officer this year. So shout out to our police department. Oh my goodness, I should just pass my phone around because he looks so cute. And I was actually visiting the sheriff's department in Virginia. That's where I was. And I sent them the picture and they said, can we please post this on our Facebook? So you can pass around my phone if you want. Oh, that is so smart. Yeah, okay, not on the.
yet.
So this evening, before I jump into our presentation material, I did want to just briefly introduce myself. I have another presentation after this. And so, if I were here for the roundtable, I just want to have an extended introduction, if that's okay, of myself for those that don't know me. So my name is John Gangs, Community Relations Manager with Tacoma Public Utilities. One thing I was thinking about as we're in the midst of elections, I work on a team of community and government relations. And so with your utility, you have myself, who's a community relations manager, but then we also have a regional relations manager that works with local electeds, so the city council and policymakers. But we actually have, as a utility, we have more customers outside of the city of Tacoma. And so that person also works with all of our franchise cities as well. And then we have a state manager who works with legislators at the state level, who attends session every year and works on important issues and like grants and different things like that. And then we also have a federal relations manager, someone that works at the federal level. So attends DC a few times a year, advocating on behalf of our hydro facilities, things like relicensing and issues like that. And then we have myself, and an education outreach manager, someone that works with all of our K through 12 population. And so I just want to emphasize elections do dictate some of how we do business as well. So they're extremely important. And I just wanted to introduce myself in that way. And so my name is John, Community Relations Manager, and I'm here with Annika Olson, Senior Planner from Planning and Development Services. Do we have our presentation?
Oh, that's weird.
I think I can figure it out.
Top left.
There we go. So my name is John, Community Relations Manager here with Annika Olson. And tonight, our purpose is to explore the objectives of the Cushman Substation project and review the progress made so far, and outline the next steps as we move forward. Has anyone attended any of the workshops? Awesome. I was at the one at UW. So tonight, we will share purpose, background, and timeline, evaluation criteria, some visioning, and the engagement summary, overview of the project scenarios, the scenario workshop recap, and then we'll talk through next steps. I want to emphasize the purpose of the study. This project was initiated in 2017 after the Cushman substation was decommissioned. There was a desire from policymakers to explore the future use, as Tacoma Power no longer needed the building and the capacity that it was used in. I do want to emphasize that this building is still currently being used as an operation building for Tacoma Power, where they have, it's a maintenance facility and a storage facility for Tacoma Power. There was an RFP that was sent out in 2000, I believe, 18, before Annika and I were involved in the project. And then a firm was selected to help lead and organize this future use study. Then obviously 2020 happened, there was a pause. And so we have restarted the future use study in 2024. The study purpose: the future use study will explore potential options for how the Cushman and Adams substation could be utilized in the future. The study has been guided by a combination. I do want to just emphasize it's been a collaborative effort. So it's been guided by a combination of city employees, city policies, Tacoma Public Utility employees, technical analysis, to really understand the potential uses of the building. The findings from the study will help inform critical decisions by the City Council and the Public Utility Board regarding the future of the substations. One of our public utility board members was at one of the workshops at the University of Washington. He spoke a little bit. As a utility, you have 5 public utility board members that are volunteer members. I know Mr. Burns has public commented. There's opportunity to speak and comment. Every other week, they meet on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month at the utility. This is a slide that some of you are probably familiar with, that you've seen, but this is the time for us to really just remind you of where we're at and how we got here. So going back to the timeline, as you can see on that top tier, we have restarted this community engagement, gathering input and exploring different potential uses for the site. And your feedback will be key in shaping the options, and we have already shaped options. I say your feedback will continue to be key because later on I'll share a QR code where we currently have an online open house. I stole that coin from Annika. That second tier, 2024, 2025, decision-making about the future use of the site will begin alongside some designing that is taking place currently for a new facility that will take on the efforts that are currently happening in the Cushman substation. And so Tacoma Power right now is in the process of designing a building that will be near our public utility on 35th and Union that will take on those efforts and will act as a storage unit. And so we should be able to vacate that building by 2027, and that's why you see that date on there. And that is still something that is happening, actively happening. I had got an update from one of my colleagues in facilities last week, as I knew I would be presenting tonight, and I know there's sometimes delays with different things, but it seems like they're still on track with that design phase of that new facility. So we can vacate the building. Some important notes, both substations, so this is the Cushman and Adams substation. The Adams substation has been vacant since, I believe, 2009. But both substations were added to the Tacoma Register of Historic Places in 2017. Like I mentioned, Tacoma Power continues to use the site, but plans to vacate 2027. And then the City Council and the Public Utility Board will decide on the future of the sites and the buildings. The future use study is exploring, and Annika will talk more about this, just conceptual scenarios to maximize public benefits, and will recommend next steps for further analysis once a preferred option is selected. Also important to note, throughout the future use study, we have gathered community feedback and explored different opportunities and constraints for this site. The study will also take into account the key city surplus policies, including the right of first refusal to tribes and other surplus property policies, the city's requirement to consider affordable housing options, and then environmental remediations, which will depend on the future use identified. And then the last thing, we're also going to will be considered around the future ownership and development responsibilities. Next slide, I want to briefly just talk about some of the future decision-making. The evaluation of the future uses will consider key factors such as public input, feasibility, cost, sustainability, which is just our environmental impact, community need, alignment with city policies, including surplus policies, but ultimately, the reason why I emphasize the Public Utility Board, because this decision will, the final decision will be on the City Council and the Public Utility Board. Couple more slides before I pass it to Annika. Just want to talk about some of the engagement to date and now. And so we've gathered feedback from various sources from the north end. As we're in this visioning phase, we gathered input through various channels, including online surveys with over 600 responses, workshop sessions with 50+ attendees, outreach at 8 different community events this past summer and fall, including festivals like the Farmers Market and the historic Cushman Street Fair. We hosted additional workshops with 50+ attendees and have an online open house survey currently available to gather more feedback. Essentially, your input will continue to be a vital part of this process. And if you have a phone, if you've ever scanned a QR code, here's the time to pull out your phone and scan this QR code. And this will take you to the open house that I mentioned, the online open house, and you can still leave comments and feedback to that we will share with leadership and our policymakers. But again, on October 21st, we were at UW Tacoma, and then October 26th, we were at the Wheelock Ranch Library. So some of these slides were essentially covered by our consultant, OTAC, who's leading this presentation, but I wanted to remind folks and just share with folks that were not at any of the workshops. And now I'll pass it to Annika.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Annika Olson. As John mentioned, I'm a senior planner with the Planning and Development Services Department, and I don't have kids, so I can't share with you a picture of them in a Halloween costume, but if I did, I would. Okay, I'm gonna try to go somewhat quickly through some of the scenarios that we're considering right now, because they're all at this QR code link. At the online open house, we have the 4 scenarios listed with a bunch of photos that sort of represent different uses in the scenarios, and an opportunity for you to share feedback there, which we hope very much that you will do. So I'll be brief, and then we can get into questions if you have any. So just a reminder, here's the site. We have the kind of 5 parts of the site. So the Cushman building, the Adams building, the Cushman site, the Adams site, and then we also have North Adams Street, which is, I think, an important opportunity to potentially connect the 2 sites together, and that's something that we're thinking about with the scenarios. And here's another view of the sites. And then, of course, you have North 21st Street. You all know this site, but that's what it looks like. So we have a couple of different types of uses, more than a couple, about 8, that we've identified. And these are, as John talked about, based on the types of public feedback that we got during the visioning phase, as well as city policy around affordable housing use for our surplus property sites, and other types of city policies around existing and anticipated zoning. So that's what all of this is reflecting. And there will not be a test on this. Again, it's all at the website. But I'll just to sort of give you an overview, and again, this is at the website. We did ask the consultant to break this down in terms of pie charts of just kind of overall uses on the site and what the different uses look like. As you can see, that light green is active open space, the dark green is passive open space. You can see that varies in some of the different scenarios. And then that dark purple versus dotted purple for the historic buildings themselves, and then the yellow and orange and red would represent new additions to those sites. And then here's a little bit more with some example photos. So we have public use in the existing building, so that adaptively reusing those 2 buildings. Public use and lease space that would still allow public access, but would partner with private entities or nonprofit entities to program and use those spaces. The orange is residential and mixed use, so ground floor mixed use, and then upper floor residential, and then lower scale residential in that yellow. And I won't go through all of these, but basically, as you can see, lots of different possibilities for these sites. And I do want to point out just that blue would be sort of like a festival street or shared use street. That's something that we heard a lot about people wanting in our initial visioning engagement. So we have included that in a lot of the scenarios.
Would that be a new street?
So the street is existing, but it's fairly wide. And so there's potential opportunity there to either fully close the street to through traffic and vacate it and use it for something else like open space, or to adapt it, kind of redesign the street, narrow it, and be able to use part of the right of way for other things.
Yeah.
I'm not quite clear about like open space.
Yeah.
So is passive open space just a regular park? And then if it's active, it has some kind of playground in it?
Yeah, we struggled a little bit with defining the sort of, the definitional challenges of like what's what. But I think the idea with passive open space is that it's literally like, there's no activation happening. There's like maybe some grass and a tree, maybe there's, a path for somebody to walk, or maybe there's, a small bench versus other types of more active uses that might be recreational, might be cultural, might be, playground space, cultural space for performance, like we have in these two photos, seating, more activated seating, sports facilities, those kinds of things. But it's a spectrum. So I'm just gonna run through these quickly. So scenario A, I said that I would do this quickly. I'm not really doing this quickly. Is this helpful to go through this at this level of detail, or? It's okay, sort of, okay. It's a small room, so I can see you all, so, you're not paying attention. So this one has, as you can see, quite a bit of open space on, the Adams site, and that's Adams Street, as well as just north of the Cushman building. It maintains the Cushman building as public access, and then, proposes adding, that, mixed use and residential along North Washington. And then the Adams building would be, the sort of shared leased, public access, but potentially leased space. Scenario B has low scale residential, those two yellow blocks that you're seeing. It maintains open space to the north and the east of the Cushman building. And then it looks at kind of mixing within the Cushman building, public access. And part of the reason that north third of the Cushman building is a different color than the rest of the Cushman building is because the building atrium along North 19th Street, where you have that beautiful facade, that's all open pretty much to the ceiling. And then on the north part of the building, there are multiple floors. So that's part of why there's some distinction there. And then you see the blue Festival Street on North Adams. This one has open space pretty much on the entirety of the Cushman site. The Cushman building has a sort of leased public access space in the atrium. And then this proposed low-scale residential, I think the consultant was sort of thinking about, could there be some type of connected use, like artist studios or artist lofts in that yellow portion that then could be connected to whatever the lease space or use is in the atrium. That's, again, all conceptual because that's where we're at in the project now. But just that's sort of one thought or one idea. And then you have that mixed use and residential orange on the Adams site, blue Festival Street on Adams Street, and then just a kind of pure commercial use of the Adams Street. So something like a cafe or something similar to that museum. And then scenario D has open space on both Adams and Cushman, mixed public use in Cushman and public access in Adams, and then low scale residential on the north part of the Cushman site. So,
Annika?
yeah,
So for those of us who went to the workshops, these were some ideas, but we were also able to play around with other ideas of what we haven't seen. And that's, so these are not defining.
that's right. Yeah, thanks Jody for saying that. And I didn't really set this up. So again, it's all conceptual at this stage. The online open house allows you to basically say, I like this part of each of the scenarios, because the next step after this is for our consultant to go back to the drawing board based on all of the information that they've gotten from the community, as well as from our city SMEs. So we had city subject matter experts review all of this before it went out, but we're continuing to learn about some of the constraints and opportunities. So that will happen again, and then we'll repackage the scenarios. So these won't be the exact scenarios that go to council. They will be modified, and that's why we're doing engagement. And so, yes, so there will be room for adjustment. on them. Did I hear another question over here? No, okay. And I did just want to talk, speaking of the workshops, about just some of the key things that we heard. This is really high level, a lot was discussed, and there will be a lot more sort of analysis and review of the workshops, which took place last week, and then I went on vacation. So just high level here. People really care about public access. We've been hearing that, you know, throughout the process across the board. People want space to gather. People generally were supportive of the sort of leased commercial space as long as that maintains public access. Although some people did ask about, you know, how do we make sure that we continue to have public access if there's private management? Open space, Biz asked about the passive open space, and I think we heard some people would like to see more of that in the scenarios. And then also a lot of people talked about how do we connect open space across the two sites and throughout the, you know, throughout the whole project, no matter, you know, kind of what happens. How does it all feel connected? Excuse me. We also heard a lot about just transportation, access to the site, connectivity, safety improvements on North 21st, people wanting a lot more transit service here. Could this project help to support more transit service? People generally were really excited and supportive of the idea of closing North Adams Street and or modifying it into more of a festival street. Housing, as we've talked about, one of our city surplus policies. Most people were, you know, acknowledged that there is a need for housing options, but there was a lot of discussion about the scale and location. So I think there's not alignment there, but generally we heard a fair amount of support for that. There are definitely folks, and I don't know if you can see this, this is the very, very bottom here. There were some people that said, we just really don't want that at all. We really just want to see just park space. Trees were a big deal, no surprise. There were also a lot of questions about remediation, and John talked about this, but whatever the remediation is, will be dependent on what the future use is, how much, you know, digging occurs, who's going to be using it, all of those kinds of things. And so that will be top of the list to study depending on what uses are recommended. Some people shared just totally new scenarios with us, and so that will be looked at as part of our analysis. And then people just have a lot of ideas and enthusiasm about the future use of the site in general, as we know. So just in terms of next steps, we'll have that online open house open until the Friday before Thanksgiving, so the 22nd. We may extend it if we don't get as much feedback as we want, but we've already gotten a pretty good response. We also, as I mentioned, will be working with our consultant to update the scenarios and perform any needed technical analysis. And then sometime next year, we'll share a final report with City Council and the Public Utility Board to get their direction about next steps. They may or may not select a preferred scenario. They may say, we need more information to make our decision. And they may say, you know, let's do a little more looking and study. So just to set that as an expectation. And then whatever happens will still be contingent on, as John talked about, you know, those partnerships and opportunities to, you know, kind of build relationships for future management of those sites. So that's why we are looking now closely at all those feasibility questions to make sure that whatever is recommended is something that can really be done successfully. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I see I saw Jody's hand up first.
So, there's participatory budgeting going on in different neighborhoods. And so I know that, North End, $1 billion, would be available in a couple of years, which would coincide with this. Is that something that could be a scenario that fits in with and provide like the public use piece of it, that we're using some of the funding for that?
Theoretically, yes. I mean, I don't manage that program, but it's a very good question. And I don't see why that couldn't be something that could be used. They have they have a process. I don't, are people familiar with the participatory budgeting program? They have a process where they collect a lot of ideas, they work with the steering group, and then they put out the final projects for a vote. So, it could certainly be an idea that was shared. Yeah.
Any discussion on the future acquisition of some of the existing parcels on the Adams substation site? Take step level into 2 blocks, I guess, of urban space?
Or like the other elements.
That's never been part of our study scope. Yeah, good question, but I don't think it's ever been something that we've considered, yeah, as part of this process. If you live there and you approach the city, I mean, I can give you my card, but I don't think that that's something that, I think it's about the existing infrastructure that TPU has and has been stewards of. Yeah.
One question, when it talks about like mixed use and whatnot, is something like a wedding venue also one of those concepts? I'm thinking almost of McMenamins downtown where they converted and they have multiple uses of that big building and someplace that might be revenue generating or something as part of those big beautiful buildings. Has that ever popped up?
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. Definitely people have talked about that kind of, use of the space. I think, as you saw in the summary of feedback, people really want to make sure that the Cushman building especially is available for public access. So, depending on many factors, I could see that, it could be rentable space, but in general, we have heard that people want to make sure that it's accessible to the public. If there was, new mixed use development, and there was ground floor retail, somebody could develop an event venue there and rent that out. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
I was trying to clarify some of the pieces of use.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have one critique to you, and this is I don't want it to sound derogatory, I just don't understand. We work very hard in the city to talk about tree canopy. And that entire piece of property has no trees in the median. And who's responsible for that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a valid comment and question. I've talked to Jody about this several times over the last several months. And it is something that I have brought forward to leadership. I think some of it is contingent on the future use of the building and what they decide. So I think that's some of the hesitancy as to why they haven't invested in planting more trees. But it's not a conversation that has been a definite no. We don't want to plant more trees. And so I'm strategizing with Jody and others on how to get to a yes until we get a no. So.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
We're letting you off light.
Okay.
tonight.
All right.
So,
Thanks so much.
so a big round of applause for Annika and John. And I would just like to say, we really do appreciate the outreach. You've participated a lot. We appreciate the grant to sponsor the street fair and being part of the Proctor. Annika is also involved in the Proctor neighborhood plan. So it's a really important part of our district, and we do appreciate your outreach to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, we are on to our liaisons roundtable. So can I invite the liaisons in the room to come up and grab a seat? If we need some more seats, we can get some more seats. And we might have one. Devin, do we have Alyssa on? So we had a couple of regrets. Alyssa from the Tacoma Parks had to be at a budget meeting, but she's zoomed in, and we're going to allow her to do a quick presentation online. We need some more seats. How are we doing?
I'm doing well.
Good job. Are you going to join our?
Yes, I am.
Actually, yeah, why don't you allow it to scoot over?
So greetings, Alyssa. Thank you. Alyssa had a conflict with her budget meeting, but she's joined us. So we're gonna give you a couple of minutes, Alyssa, to just give us an update on your situation. I'm not sure that we're gonna be able to actually get you in the round table part. But if you want to give a little presentation on behalf of the parks, go ahead, and we'll just check the sound.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, good evening. How's that? Does that work?
Excellent. Yes.
Hi. Cool. So yeah, good evening. I can't see anything but a blank ball. Oh, look there. Now I can see people. Oh, wow, my head's really, really large. So Elisa O'Hanlon Regala with Metro Parks. I am our long-range strategic planner. And we did have a presentation to our park board this evening on the drivers behind the formation of our biennial budget. So, you know, what are we seeing in terms of inflation and revenue projections and community engagement? What has the community been telling us? And of course, the park board adopted its 6-year strategic plan in July. So there was a lot of community outreach leading up to and in the development of that plan. So we did some budget workshops in September. Man, it's November. Some budget workshops in September to help guide development of our 25-26 budget. And really, what came from those budget workshops in September was affirmation of all the public engagement we had done for the long-range strategic plan. So that is the big activity happening at Metro Parks right now. We do have 2 public hearings coming up on our budget. One will be on November 25th at 6 p.m. So for folks that can attend in the evening, and more details are online. You go to the Metro Parks page and you can look up park board meetings, and you can get details on how you can participate virtually if you can't attend in person. So that first budget hearing is November 25th at 6 p.m. And then there'll be a second hearing on December 2nd at noon for people who cannot attend in the evening, but might be able to attend midday or maybe Zoom in during a lunch. So I think that really is what I wanted to make y'all aware of course, as we head into there's always lots of activity all year round at Metro Parks, but of course, as we head into this holiday season, you know, the old traditional things like zoo lights, you know, will be coming on board. I see a question in the chat. The Trust for Public Lands identified the North End as being a park desert. Has Metro Parks taken any planning effort to remedy this? So, yeah, the strategic plan that the park board adopted shows a lot of gaps. Our goal is a 10-minute walk for every resident in Tacoma, a 10-minute walk to a park or open recreation space. And we have lots of gaps in Tacoma. So certainly land acquisition is a strategic action that we're pursuing over the next 6 years. And when I say acquisition, I use that as a phrase to also identify partnerships. And what I mean by that, for example, is Tacoma Housing Authority is developing a property on over by the TCC area. And as they're starting to develop that property and as the master plan came together, we talked about reserving a space while they are the property owner, we talked about reserving a space that could be publicly accessible, because there is a very large gap in the west end of that 10-minute walk level of service. We also are partnering with Tacoma Public Schools to develop community schoolyards. So oftentimes the schoolyards at elementary schools are not accessible throughout on the weekends or even during the week when school is not in session. And so we have launched a couple of community schoolyards where we've partnered with the school district to redesign those schoolyards to also offer amenities that would be beyond just for elementary school kids. And those properties would be available to the neighborhood to use at like a neighborhood park. So maybe some more natural elements, maybe some benches and other things, again, to kind of fill in as more of a neighborhood park. And we've done that at Stafford Elementary, Jenny Reed Elementary, which is in the Tacoma Mall area. There's a huge gap there. And we're working on 3 other parks, community schoolyards right now. So yeah, as we look at those gaps all around the city, acquisition, these kinds of partnerships are things that we're leaning to a lot more. Metro Parks doesn't have a huge history of a lot of land acquisition. In fact, we just purchased a property earlier this year in addition to Swan Creek Park on the east side of Tacoma, and that was the first land acquisition that Metro Parks has done in maybe 10 years. So something we'll be leaning into a lot more this coming biennium and in that 6-year strategic plan.
Thank you, Alyssa. I did mention to Alyssa, we're going to be having parks as one of our topics for next year's meeting. So the way we're going to do the format is we're going to send the microphone down. Each of our liaisons is going to give you a little 2-3 minute update on their particular organization and what they're doing. And then we'll get into some questions for some interactive dialogue and questions with the audience. So please introduce yourself, your organization, and pass the microphone down.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Caldwell, and I am with the Tacoma Public Library, and I'm also a North End resident. So the Tacoma Public Library, what have we been up to? We had Tacoma Reads on Friday, which was just an exciting event. About 500 people came out to hear James McBride, the award-winning author, come and talk about his book with the mayor. It was just awesome to hear the 2 of them interact and to learn from both of them that night. You know, one of the things that I think is most exciting about the library here is, you know, when they were talking about the Cushman project, one of the listening sessions was held here at the Weeblock Library. And I think we're just really proud to be involved in those kinds of discussions and be a space where people can interact and build community. I do have some stuff pulled up specifically for the questions, but I will wait until later and I will pass them out.
Pass. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Slazener, and I'm the Assistant Chief of EMS for the Tacoma Fire Department. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. There's a couple of things that have kind of occurred at the Tacoma Fire Department in 2024. One, we had our chief of the department retire. So we have an interim chief currently, Chief Sienna Stallings Alaliyami. I can never say that correctly. We'll just go with Chief Stallings. That's how I know her best. She is amazing, and she is dedicated to service and just ensuring that the people of Tacoma are well taken care of. So we are very lucky to have her with the retirement of Chief Green. Just to touch on our system, we are a busy system. As you guys know, we've been working towards Proposition 1 because of our increasing call volume and everything that we have. So those that came out and voted yes, I just want to say thank you for that. Give you guys a little bit of an example. Currently, for total incidents, this is fire, this is EMS, this is everything. We're sitting approximately at 45,000 calls right now. Last year, we were at 51. So we're on pace to go past that by about 3,000 to 4,000 calls this year alone. Of those calls, this year, 36,768. Last year, we were at 43. We'll pass that again. Fires, 8,042 fires this year. of those fires, for last year, we were at 8,352. So if you kind of do the math, we're looking to pass that as well. And then there's some other things that Tacoma Fire works on as well. One, those are a lot of calls. What do we do to kind of mitigate that? For those of you who are not aware, I'm pretty proud of our department. We actually have our own fire communication center. So we have trained firefighter EMTs that are our dispatchers that provide information to the callers that call 911 during their worst day of their life to help give directions prior to the fire department getting there. And they also mitigate those events. Is this an appropriate 911 call? I think you guys would be surprised how many calls actually come to the 911 center that are not necessarily appropriately or a true emergency. So they actually mitigated 5,482 calls this year alone. Last year, they mitigated nearly 7,000. So don't know that they're going to mitigate that much again, but with that is education, right? So if somebody does those things, there's a less chance that they're going to reoffend, if you will, or use the 911 abusively. So talk about some highlights that we have real quick, and then I'll pass the mic. ISTATs. Anybody hear what ISTATs is or heard that term before? It's point of care lab testing. It's something that Tacoma Fire doesn't have a lot of money and resources for, so we actually went out for some funding, applied for some grants, and the Multi-Care Health Foundation actually donated these ISTATs, they're called, which allow for us to do testing in the field for certain things that we're looking for, so we can speed up that care. One, when we get to the hospital, because we already know what their lab values are. Think about it, that takes time for their lab to process these things, right? We're able to get that in the field, have those results, pass that information along, and we're able to treat off those as well. So one other thing that we've been working on for the last 4 years, and this will take effect January 1st, 2025, is a whole blood program. We have a unit, which is a 24-hour EMS supervisor, and we kind of joined with the county, same thing. This is grant money to get the coolers and get this thing off and going, and Multi-Care Health Foundation stepped up once again for this. Basically, Central Pierce and Tacoma Fire will have a whole blood for the county for those major incidents. And the whole blood has been shown nationwide to truly make the difference between life and death. And so we are excited to be able to do that in Pierce County and right here in Tacoma to save your loved ones. And then the last little thing I just want to put out there, cooking safety. It's the holidays, Thanksgiving's coming. We all like to be in the kitchen and cook. Little fact for you, Thanksgiving is the peak day for cooking fires. Weird, right? So I want you guys to be thinking safety, have some flyers out on the tables. Please just kind of review some of that information in there. One of those highlights in that flyer that I'm just gonna kind of pick on, because we don't always think about this, right, is the little ones running around the kitchens or the pets and all those other things, right, while we're cooking. And so you think about those times when you're moving something off a hot stove, taking it to the sink and those sorts of things, and a kid gets tangled up. I've seen it 3 times in my career where kids are severely burned. There's 72 medics in our system. I've been on the job 21 years. I've seen it 3 times. Let's say every medic in our system has maybe seen it twice. That's a lot of burns, right? So we can do better, but it starts with education. So please be careful cooking this year. Appreciate you guys.
My name is Liz Collins. I'm with the University of Puget Sound. We are again very happy to host everybody. Glad you can be here, and welcome to campus. Welcome to enjoy the 97 acres we've got here in terms of beautiful trees and walkways and just reflective spaces, and a chance to break away a little bit from some of the madness of the election season. We'll be talking about that a little bit more when we get to the questions on the roundtable discussion. Just wanted to point out as well that the University of Puget Sound again this year will be the location for Mary Ridge Children's Hospital Festival of Trees, first weekend in December. So be on the lookout for that. And if you would like more information on that or any other, the many events that are hosted here, if indeed you want a little more Puget Sound in your life, there on your tables I have cards about how to subscribe to our newsletters, including for our athletics and for our different cultural and artistic events as well. So I'm going to pass the mic and we'll come back around.
Hello, I'm Kari Campen with the Tacoma Public Schools. Last time I was here was about 9 months ago, and we shared with you about the bond that was being proposed for voters. I'm glad to say that your support and others in our community that the bond passed. It's for $650 million over the next however many years to do improvements at the school district, which we are just starting that journey right now. Also, some other updates since the beginning of the year. Students in grades 1, 5, and 9 get new laptops. That's all part of the technology levy that was passed in 2022. So every 4 years, the students will get new laptops, meaning that like ninth graders now, they'll keep theirs through their time they're a senior in high school. And then those get turned back in, they get recycled out to other organizations, and keeps them up on current technology. We also have this year kicked off a new college and career readiness initiative called My Future College and Career Readiness. You'll see that there's should be signs around town, little signs sticking in the grass somewhere that kind of get a QR code for families to be able to find out more information that's available. It's a partnership with the community and other organizations. Let's see, Lowell Elementary School, which is on the agenda for tonight, to talk about. The Lowell students have transitioned to the West End Swing site, which is over by Basalt. They'll be there for about 2 years during that process. And with the bond, some of the ideas that are being worked on right now, there is a central kitchen for the school district. Currently, every meal is prepared in the kitchen of the school that's there. You can imagine the inefficiencies of having 65 locations, all having orders brought to them and preparing it in their one location versus having a central kitchen do that. School is also a project that's on there to be completed in September of 2028. The Long Elementary School, 2029, and so forth. A new thing we have this year is a new philanthropic organization called the Tacoma Education Dream Fund. And what's I think is pretty cool about it is that the inaugural CEO for that is a stadium graduate. Her name is Sue Elkin, and that's just started up this year. You'll see more about that too. But the purpose is to be able to have funding that helps students out in their school career and beyond that. Last thing I want to bring up was about the some of the progress that's going on right now. You've probably seen the Peck Field is being redone to become a multi-purpose location for all sorts of different sports activities outside. And then within this area, there's a Hilltop Heritage School that has a fast pitch field that's being put in, and that'll be ready for this season as well.
You remind me of the question we're starting with right now.
This is just the quick update. So, and
Oh.
probably Sarah gave an update, so perhaps you're off the hook unless there's something burning that you want to talk about.
I'll make it really fast. On December 7th, I am hosting a senior summit at the Aliso, which is former Lutheran home of 1300 Highlands Parkway. December 7th from 10 to noon. Senior summit, we're looking at the city's age-friendly action plan that it adopted in 2021. Potential updates may come with that. So for our conversation, people are invited, whether you're a senior or senior adjacent, or may one day become a senior. We're inviting a lot of people to come and join us there. So, all I got.
You got an update from us already.
Okay, we've had 3 questions that you see on the agenda. And the first question was, tomorrow is election day. How do our liaisons organizations address elections and outreach? And are there ideas on changes that could improve community engagement? As I mentioned before, Leslie Barstow, who represents Port of Tacoma, had a family emergency. But she did reach back to me with sort of her thoughts on these topics. So that sort of gives everybody an idea of what her ideas were. So then, if you're unambitious, you can just say similar. So she talked about the fact that Port of Tacoma does have elected commissioners, and that they do regular outreach. I know that I'm a member of Tacoma Transportation Club, and I see the Tacoma Port Commissioners there on a regular basis. And in just a preview of this question, all of these liaisons are fabulous in responding to the North End neighborhoods outreach to them. So whenever we have a question and reach out to them, they always come back with some answers. So we appreciate that. But we'll start off basically going down. We started that end, we'll start this end. So
all right, for the Tacoma Police Department, our ultimate goal is to make sure all the community members feel safe to vote and that they can go to a safe place to vote and be ensured that their ballot will be safe through the process. So it's been a lot of work leading up to this, gathering the intel, working to flush out that intel to see if there is any sort of threats or concerns, and having a plan in place and having the staffing in place in case something does occur. And even if you don't see us out there, we're doing a lot on the back end to ensure that safety, and you should see high visibility patrols in and around ballot boxes to give that feeling of safety and security. And additionally, some of us might be, hiding in the woods, in the bushes, and watching from a distance to make sure that if something, a concern does happen, we're ready to immediately respond to it.
Additionally, we are running an emphasis with Pierce County at the annex, where it is the primary drop box, and we understand they started today for sure, and maybe over the weekend as well. But with people coming in to vote, traffic can get really backed up over there, and so we're up there as well, directing traffic and trying to maintain that flow so that people can vote and get in and out without major delays. So I'll pass it along to John.
Thank you. So, with the horrible former high school civics teacher, I didn't say, hopefully you all voted already, and if you haven't voted, there's still time, 8 p.m. tomorrow to do so. Our organization in the city of Tacoma, we have an elected council, 8 council members and mayor. We also put things on the ballot, like fire money that's on the ballot this year, and the 6 charter amendments that are on the ballot this year, so we engage in elections that way. I think as part of that, there's probably a lot of organizations, there's a fine line between elections and governing that we have to really kind of manage very closely, right? So our city we have elected leadership, we can put these on the ballot, but the city itself can't do any advocacy work or kind of do any of that involved in elections. I, as an elected official on my non-city time, I'm able to do things. But I think when we look at improving community engagement, I think we can always do a better job of getting more community involved in the process. I have often told my students in the United States of America, we don't have a crisis of, I'll be honest, we don't have a crisis of voter fraud in this country, we have a crisis of the fact that half the population is voting wrong. So I would just say that we could always do better at getting more people voting and engaged in the electoral process.
If you look at one of the reasons why public schools exist at all in the United States, one of the original reasons they did it was so that we could educate the entire student population so that they could grow up to be voters. So I think that's one of the values of having our public school system like we do have, having them go to a civics class and to learn about the issues that are coming up. But along with that, you all as adults that are out in the working world or beyond, when you vocalize the reasons why you vote and the things that are important to you, that helps our youth to understand the importance of it. Statistics show that homes that have adults that talk about issues, their students or youth are more likely to grow up being people that will vote, which is what we want to have. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is that with Tacoma Public Schools, we have a school board. The school board is elected, and the school board listens to community members. If you've attended a school board meeting, you'll know that you can go up personally and share your views, or you can write in and share those views that way as well. And there are many changes that happen in our community that are different than what the initial thought was of what we were going to do based on community involvement. And it doesn't take a lot of people. It just takes a couple of people to get involved to make those changes. I think that's important for you to know as well. I am going to brag a little bit about the students at the University of Puget Sound. You know, we've had a long tradition of strong voter engagement and pretty robust political engagement, both within and beyond the classroom on campus. But the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge recognized University of Puget Sound for our nonpartisan democratic engagement efforts that fostered high level of student voter engagement in the 2022 midterm elections. And in fact, Puget Sound was awarded the 2022 Washington Campus Voting Guide Challenge Gold Seal for having the highest registration rate among four-year institutions. I think that really reflects our commitment to ensuring democratic engagement, and that's a defining feature of our campus life. And these robust voter registration efforts continued, were renewed as soon as students got back to our campus in late August, early September. So we recognize that you don't have to just vote, that's very important, but election season also can be a pretty uncertain and stressful time. So in recent weeks and in the weeks to come, our student support services in different areas of campus and faculty members have been engaged in providing a range of opportunities for members of the campus community to, I'm going to get this right, to engage in reflective and compassionate self and community care. This week in particular, and certainly in the weeks to come, which we all may be thinking could be kind of scary times. So just some thoughts on how we can manage these challenging times. Stay in touch, stay connected with people you care about and trust. Do something creative, get involved with a cause that you care about, and stop scrolling. I'll leave it at that. But looking ahead, plans are in the works to reboot what was called the legislative preview session that our friends at Tacoma City Club hosted here for many years, and we're looking at ways to bring that back. So first week of January, before the legislative session gets started in Olympia, we'll have leaders from the Democratic side and Republican side moderated discussion, looking ahead to what's happening in Olympia. So sign up for our newsletters. I'm trying to reach one of these cards. If you want a little more Puget Sound in your life, sign up for the Hatchet, and we will get that information out to you. Thank you.
Well, I would say I might kind of include police in this one too, but as first responders, police and fire, we deal a lot of time with the aftermath, and of course, that's what the public sees on TV and everything else. And just one of those unfortunate events when people they want to exercise their right to vote and they're unable to or feel unsafe to, and those things. And so we do want to make you feel safe. And so some of the proactive stuff that we do that just is not seen as we stand up our city emergency management, we come up with plans, and this is where police kind of decide these are the crews that we're going to have here and there. Police or fire, we're aware of these incidents that are going to be happening, and we have our strategies to be able to go in and do what we need to do if there was an explosion at a ballot box, for example, or something of that nature. So those are the proactive things that I want everyone to know that does occur, it does take place. Just don't hear about it, don't see it. You guys see the aftermath. So to that end, I want to dovetail off of what Deputy Mayor Hines says too. This is kind of out of our code of ethics. City employees may participate fully in political campaigns. However, they may not do so during working time, nor may they use city facilities, city services, or their position with the city, either directly or indirectly, to support or oppose a particular candidate or ballot proposal. And so that being said, we are allowed to state facts, and so I can be up here just like I was last month, stating the facts of Proposition 1. What I can't do is I can't tell you, hey, vote for it. If I want you to, well, I can't answer. But anyways, that being said, I just kind of, when you guys do see firefighters, for example, at the council last Tuesday, for example, they're speaking as part of Local 31, which is our union group, as firefighters. All right. Thank you.
All right, so the library, one of the main things when it comes to election season is being informed. And at the library, you can find all kinds of books. Did you know that? In addition to newspapers and online databases. And we all know that, right? That's like the standard what a library does definition. But in addition to that, every election day, our branches get transformed into points of assistance areas. And this is a big task that starts about 2 weeks to a month out to plan for it. Then the election office comes and they deliver all these materials for us. And then on election day, including tomorrow, all of the Tacoma citizens can come in if they have questions, if they need help registering to vote, if they need to update their voter registration, even if they need to get a ballot, they can do that at the library. So much like we've talked about, we can't tell anyone how to vote, but we can assist them with any questions they have, make sure that their voice is heard.
Thank you all. Okay, next question that we prepared. As the cost of housing rises, many of our neighbours are being forced to move to other parts of the Puget Sound area where housing is less expensive. Places like Lakewood, Parkland, Buren, etc. What is your organisation doing to minimise the displacement of your least wealthy customers? So again, to start off, seeing as the Port of Tacoma already gave us some of their answers, to just summarise, they said they're not involved in any housing issues, but as Leslie mentioned at one of our other meetings, I thought it was such a great program they had where they not just are moving the homeless people who are parking their trucks on the port environment. They actually give money to the city of Fife, who then employ those homeless people to do work in their parks department. So I just, when I heard that last time, I was just like, wow, here's an entity actually doing something positive. So that sets the bar, and unfortunately you get to start again.
Okay, here we go. All right, so again, much like the Board of Tacoma, we don't really get involved much in housing, but we do things that can help lower your cost of living, right? So for example, at the library, you can print for free, $5 every week, up to $5. So you can use a computer, right? We also have mobile hotspots that you can check out for folks that don't have internet or cannot afford internet. They can check out a mobile hotspot. So the library, in addition to being a third space that's welcoming to everyone in Tacoma, we do try to provide things for free to our patrons and our citizens so that they can help reduce that cost of living, whether it's entertainment. We have streaming movies, streaming music, things like that, but also those essentials that you need as well.
All right. Well, when emergencies unfortunately strike, they can be a hardship. And you think about even, a transport cost for somebody who's maybe just barely getting by, paying for their rent or their house, be a pretty heavy kick to them. Transportation to the hospitals, it's not cheap. And so one of the things that happened, not this year, but last year in 2023, we passed that EMS levy. And I'm just going to read a few of the things that actually provided for us. It reduced financial impact for all emergency medical transports. Prior to that, it was only advanced life support transport. So if you were dying or dead, you received an ALS transport or a medic rig. Now, all transports to the hospital by Tacoma Fire will help reduce that. So basically, the way that kind of works is we will try to bill your insurance, but whatever the insurance doesn't cover, you would be stuck with that bill. Under the EMS levy, if you're a member of the community, you will not pay that bill. It's getting absorbed into the EMS levy. And so that eliminates that out-of-pocket costs that exceed that insurance coverage, like I mentioned, eliminates collection impacts on credit reports. And then this is also an opportunity that I'd like to just talk briefly about our HOPE team and our CARES team. I'll start with HOPE, which is Holistic Outreach Promoting Engagement. And they respond to mental health and substance abuse calls, specifically mental health when they're actually in a crisis. And when they're in crisis, a lot of times they don't make the best decisions, or on drugs for that matter. They're not in their right minds. And so you think about some of those decisions that they may make, could lead them down a very detrimental path where they could potentially lose their homes and other things. And so to have a crisis responder there that can de-escalate and then get them to the proper resources and case management follow-up is key to preventing those things from happening. And then I also want to talk about our CARES program. CARES is Community Assistance, Referral, and Education Services. And it's basically a telephonic case management system, and they're purely designed to reduce the overuse or abuse of 911 calls. A lot of what we find is we're finding people don't know where to turn or what resources, right? So the 911 system becomes the catch-all for any kind of emergency for those people that are not educated. So they provide that case management, but they also provide that education and also connect them to resources that they would have no idea about. And so, and by doing that case management, probably one of the best things I could like come up with just real quick off the top of my head, because I know this happens with them regularly, is you get somebody who's maybe getting a little bit to the elderly side and they're not taking their pills appropriately and stuff like that. Well, they provide that case management and set them up with resources with people that can kind of help with that. And then they provide the follow-up, and they'll follow up with them for several weeks. And so those are things that, you know, could be detrimental in the long run to not only their health, but also financially type stuff too. So, and a lot of the resources that they're referring to are really free resources.
Well, University of Puget Sound, work closely with the Tacoma Public Schools. And we have the Tacoma Public Schools commitment, which is our way of supporting Tacoma students as they embark on their next stage of education. They elect to go to college after 12th grade. We believe that financial limitations shouldn't keep students from receiving some kind of education, right, John Hines? That the University of Puget Sound provides, my fellow alumnus. Eligible Tacoma students will have their full demonstrated financial aid met when they attend the University of Puget Sound. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I'm happy to share. But we believe in the value of education, and we believe that Tacoma should be a place where if you live here, you should, if you work here in Tacoma, you should be able to live in Tacoma, and if you live in Tacoma, you should find good employment in Tacoma or beyond. So we are a member of the Tacoma Anchor Institutions Network, along with schools, the city, the port, major healthcare, and some others that I'm forgetting, but we're trying to be a good partner to all our neighbors. So I believe it's all about education and trying to help in that regard.
Okay, and adding on to that, of course, there's the partnership that Tacoma Public Schools has with UPS and other colleges in the area. We also have partnerships with the YMCA, Metro Parks, Boys and Girls Clubs, and others, programs like Beyond the Bell, Club B. In our school district, one of the great equalizers we have is that every student is allowed to have a meal, breakfast and a lunch meal without paying for it, regardless if they're free, reduced, qualified or not. And that equalizing that allows there to be no shaming in taking a free meal, because everybody gets a meal without having to pay for it. So I think that's one of the programs that helps students to stay here, along with the other equalizing that we have, the Tacoma Education Dream Fund coming in, as well as My Future College and Career Readiness that we do as well.
Okay. So this is a great question, Peter. Thank you very much. One that I give a lot of people detail on, but I will hold off on that. So I'll try to keep it high level. Then I can answer follow-up questions later if you have them. So I think a couple pieces of this. So number one, right, one of the reasons why housing is getting expensive is people want to live in the city of Tacoma, which is a good thing. Right? I've been in Tacoma my whole life, and it's good that people want to live here. Challenges when people want to live here, if the housing that's available doesn't expand as fast as people who want to live here move here, prices go up. So one of the things we're looking at is, Home Tacoma, which we can talk about more, is just trying to find more housing options for people. Basic premise of it. I do think when we look at people who are moving to other parts of the area, like Lakewood, Parkland, Marion, et cetera, for more affordable housing, that's not just, I think that's also, we can't lose sight of the fact that's also probably younger people looking to get homes, people leaving the family household and trying to look for places, and if there's not places to go in the outlying areas where there's more affordable housing, but that comes with the cost of being far away from where they may work, at the cost of like needing to drive in their car for a extended period of time to get there. And so one of the ways that we help also offset those costs is by having more housing closer in the city, is people reduce commute times, get people closer to the city center, their work, so other ways to reduce costs. There's a lot more to it than that. And I'm sure if I know any group, when I talk about housing, correctly, they'll tell me, John, that, you know, the market is not as smooth as you think it is. So with that, I also say the city of Tacoma also has a housing trust fund, a lot of money put aside along with the state to provide more affordable housing. So people who have lower incomes, housing needs, such as the Tacoma Housing Authority, a lot of our nonprofit housing development organizations too. So that we're also providing not only the housing the market provides, but also kind of housing for people whose incomes are either fixed or very low. I think the balance of both more housing options plus also subsidized housing for people who have fixed or low incomes is probably the best way we make sure to come with a place where everybody can live.
As far as the police department goes, I think, obviously our main goal is to keep the community safe, right? The better we can do that, you know, I think the safer people feel living in the community, buying homes in the community, staying in the community, et cetera. Obviously, as you guys hear us talk month in and month out at these meetings, we're continuing our hiring efforts, to get our department up to the staffing levels that we would like to see them at, to be able to provide more of that, you know, better police service, if you will, so that we have the staffing to respond to the 911 calls for service in a more timely manner, and provide that service to the community. So I think that's definitely one way. Kind of piggybacking off of what Fire said, we also have some entities that we work closely with that do provide resources and free things, or lower reduced cost of things. We have our DCRs, our designated crisis responders, that we work very closely with, on crisis calls, that gives people an option to, you know, get into the hospital and get the mental health evaluations that they need and have case management through that process so that they can hopefully, you know, get the help that they need going forward without us just having to go in involuntarily commit them, where we just kind of drop them off at the hospital with a short synopsis of what happened and then leave it to the hospital to follow up. The DCRs actually see them through the process, and we find it's more successful getting people more longer term help that they need. And then as CLOs specifically, and the homeless outreach team officers as well, we work very closely with neighborhood and community services, when we are out in the community contacting, you know, the homeless folks and the people who are struggling. And neighborhood and community services is able to provide them with a variety of resources, not just shelter and housing options, but safe parking options, gas, if they need it for their vehicles, bus passes, you know, things like that. So while that's not us providing that, we do work closely with them. And so when we see the need in the community, we reach out to them immediately and we get those services, you know, almost immediately. I can't think of a time where I reached out to neighborhood and community services and they said, oh, we'll get back to you in 3 to 5 business days. Usually it's within the hour that somebody's responding. So I think that's a few ways that we're providing, you know, those services.
And unlike fire, all our transports are complimentary. We never charge for.
The silver bracelets are a free option at times.
The last question that we prepared sort of ties into the previous one, which was, as the city plans for more people to move here, some current residents are concerned about losing the relative high quality of life we currently enjoy. What's your organization doing to maintain or improve the high quality of life we currently enjoy as we make space for more people? So we are sort of getting through, so keep the answers pretty short on this one.
So again, for us, this comes back to staffing to provide a high quality police service. And I know the chief's office is working on projecting retirements and hiring to show city council where we're projected to be at to hopefully understand where those gaps are and when some of those will be filled. But again, for us, it's just trying to provide a high level, appropriate police service for the city with, you know, to match the demands of the city.
This one, you gonna take that one? Okay. It's another good question, and again, I know Peter said, so. Yeah, I mean, I lived here for my whole life, right, so it's a special place that I love, and, one of the premises of the Park Neighborhood Plan, and the Kinley Hill Plan, and the Way Plan, neighborhood planning process we're doing, trying to identify what is it we really truly value about our neighborhoods, what are the things we want to see maintained, because changes happen, right, change is constant in life, right, so what are the things we want to hold on and not lose sight of as changes happen, and so, well, I think this is a really important question for us, but I think I'm gonna just verbalize the idea that, it really get tied to, what do we mean by relative high quality of life, right? So what does that mean? And then how, once we have an idea of what that is, and I'm sure many of you could share that with me and have a clear vision, we think about what that looks like to try to get to that, right? Because I think, the idea is like, if it's tree-lined streets, right, there's a way to approach that. If it's neighborhoods are of a scale where I feel comfortable walking around, there's a way to get to that. If it's, I want to have sidewalks where I can, somebody told me one time that, sidewalks safe when you would like let your 5-year-old run off down away from you and like let them go. Is that the kind of neighborhoods we want, right? So when we talk about high quality of life and what it looks like, I think really kind of nailing that down. Is it a community that feels like a community, right? This Tacoma is a big city, bigger city, that has a good small town feel. What are those components that we kind of focus on? And I would just say that, what we're really trying to make sure we do as a city is to make sure that we have the resources, the staffing, the employees, the programs in place to kind of maintain those things as best we can. I will be really honest, right? Something I talk about with one of the benefits of a city that people want to live in that's growing is that it helps offset some of the costs to maintain the city we already have, right? So we live in a built out city that's over 100 years old. So the road from my house was built in 1948. I'm gonna pay to fix that road, my neighbor can pay to fix that road, whether it's, and if it's 10 of us, we're cutting that, we're paying 10 apiece. If there's 20 of us, the number would be divided up among more people. And so how do we both, as new people come in, spread the costs between the new residents and the current residents, and also to make sure some of the growth that's coming in is paying for some of the impacts that come with that too. So that's kind of the nexus of what we have to be working on here in the city.
Two things I can think about for us is, the Maritime Skills Center. You may or may not be aware of it, but it's a partnership with the Port of Tacoma, and the purpose is to help introduce students to a career that would keep them here in the county. So that's a great way to do that and give them a career that they can afford to live here as well. Second thing is the shared resources that we have at most of our schools. You'll see that there's some kind of a shared open space that the community can use. And with Peck Field and the new Hilltop Heritage Field, there's some additions as well as the new schools coming up in the next 5 to 10 years.
So just doubling down on what I said earlier, this is a beautiful place. Please come visit, indoors and out. And one of the propaganda cards on your tables, and for those on the Zoom, it's not propaganda, it's true. Thank you, John. It is true that the university offers many, many resources and services, including, I'll just highlight 3. I did not know that our print and copy services department is like the best printing deal in the North End. I didn't know that. I learned that recently, reading something on Facebook that I didn't even write. So Puget Sound Museum of Natural History is a terrific resource for learning about so much of the natural world. Located in Thompson Hall on Union Ave, and the community tree walks hosted here regularly. So stay tuned for more on that. But lots going on. Please visit us.
I'll start by just saying thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak with everybody. It's not every day I get to see the public and do these things now that I'm in my administrative role. So, but I love representing our department and the things that we're able to do. I'm going to keep it pretty short because a lot of this stuff I've already said, things that we're doing to make sure that you're able to, to maintain or improve the high quality of life. We're looking at reducing those unnecessary 911 calls. So we're there and available for when that emergency happens for you. And so, and we have several ways that we're doing that now, and it's only getting better and better and better. So We're doing that through our dispatch here pretty soon too. I'll talk about that maybe at another meeting. So, but I'm excited for things to come. So we can make sure that we're there for our public when they truly need us. The other thing that we're doing, as everybody knows, Proposition 1, we're trying to make sure that we have dedicated funds for our equipment and our apparatus. So it's there to function when it needs to. Anyways, thank you again. Appreciate all of you.
All right. And I'll just wrap this up by talking again about community. You know, they talk about quality of life. It makes you think of the blue zones, right? They have like the books, and the TV show now about it. And community is one of those things, right, that all the blue zones have. And I really think the library has that to offer for us as well. I talked about the Tacoma Reads event, which is a big event. We also have 1,000 other events every year at our branches that folks can go to, from crafting to Tacoma Tree Foundation, you know, all kinds of things that are hosted there. We have book clubs. So here we have Wheelock and Swayze. Each of those branches have their own book club. We have the Books on Tap book club. We have a science fiction one coming out next year, if anybody's into that. So I just really think that what the library does for Tacoma when it comes to quality of life is providing that community and a place where you can belong and continue to grow.
So thank you so much, liaisons, for coming here. We're running a little tight on time, so I'm not going to open it up for dialogue with the group, but can we give them all a really big round of applause? And Jeff said he's not allowed to tell you to go out and vote for the fire levy, but I am, so go out and vote for the fire. And we'll try and get through the rest of the meeting, and so if any of you got specific question, perhaps you can grab the specific liaison. I think we've got about another 5 minutes of the meeting. So if you want to go and join the audience, and we'll get through the rest of the meeting. Thank you so much. Hey. So on old business, first item on old business is Home in Tacoma 2, and I think Sarah Rumbow did talk a little bit about that, but I know, Kit, did you have an issue you wanted to bring up under the Home in Tacoma before John walks out of the room?
Is everybody familiar with what is involved in Home in Tacoma? I spoke to the.
Wait a minute, John.
You could look into the camera.
That wasn't my plan.
Oh, tough.
Yeah, so my name is Ken Burns, and I spoke to the city council, and I put together some documents, which I'll share with Peter, and we can share with everybody who is interested in that as well, and especially in Home in Tacoma. I'm a retired architect, and I look at the Home in Tacoma plan. There was a state law, it was called HB 1110. And I believe the city council has gone way overboard than what's required. They have a plan on parking, which basically eliminates parking. If you use what's called a tier 2 bonus, and I'm not going to how you get those, but in UR1, if you live in a single family zone now, UR1, they can put up to 8 units on that property next to you. And with 8 units, no parking is required. In a UR2, which is basically right next door, you can put 12 units. Again, no parking. And then if you're a UR3, you can put up to 16 units, and this is on a 6,000 square foot lot. So basically 2 25-foot lots with 120 feet. That goes way overboard what this state law says. And so I'm not real happy about that. If you had a 16 unit place next to you, a 12 unit place, an 8 unit place, these are rentals. These aren't for sale. And I don't think it's going to increase the housing as we're told. The other thing, there's a provision in the law, and I'll just make this last point. It says that when these houses are built, they'll be in similar, compatible to the neighborhood. They'll be in scale, values and character.
you know, you can't make something that is, has 8 units that will match your house in your neighborhood. So, I think I'm gonna work against this. And so I let the council know. Thank you.
Thank you, Kit. We have a board meeting, next week, and we'll, as a board, we'll discuss our next step. I did ask Sarah the question about, well, you sort of been ignoring us. I think she thought I was talking about trees, because she always thinks we're talking about trees. But, Kit, perhaps I could engage with you, so that we can, as an organization, as a board, decide perhaps we just need one more communication during this next process of saying, I think the 2 issues that you brought up are very important to us. It's not just trees, but it is also the character. That was part of what we were talking about with the liaison roundtable, is why we all love living here. So thank you for that. The second item we have on old business is the historic district moratorium. And I would, Jeff Corso has been leading up our approach on that. I think we mentioned last meeting that Historic Tacoma has actually sued the city over that moratorium and the process that is underway. Jeff's been doing a wonderful job for us of running interference on behalf of us, has joined in the various calls, and we are taking that very seriously. We are a party to that lawsuit, and it has gone before the administrative judge, so there should be a ruling coming down on that. New business, and Corey mentioned Lowell School. Lowell is rebuilding their school, and that is in our district. Some of the people who live overlooking that school had a concern about the new building and how that was going to impact. It's a view-sensitive district, as I understand. So we did reach out to the city and ask for a public hearing, which occurred. And again, a shout out to Jeff Corso. He again is running interference for us on that. He joined that meeting and will be updating the board on anything else that we need to do. But we did get feedback that the new school, the design and your approach with respect to parking and the kids drop off and everything. There's a lot of good stuff. It's just, that's part of what neighborhood councils are involved in, is we need to be involved in what's happening in our district. So, are there any other items of new business? Yes, please.
Not new business, but related to Lowell. Just want to let everybody know that you're going to see fire crews there. Our training ground is completely taken up with our new hires that we have right now. And so we're always looking for destinations to be able to drill and train. And so the public schools was really kind to the fire department, and they're allowing us to use that drill ground till the February 28th. And so this is one of those just great opportunities for us. And so when we do see that happen, we try to take advantage of that. So, so don't be alarmed if you see a bunch of fire crews there at Lowell.
Okay, as my morning walks by there, I'll wave at your guys. So.
Add one of the things to that too, is that we kept the playground open for as long as we could before we started having illegal activity on the location. So now it's fenced up. It's not because the fire department's gonna be there. It's because we want to keep that safe for the community.
Okay, thank you.
So Lowell School is being torn down, is that right?
Yes, and rebuilt, brand new building. So that's I mentioned earlier, all those kids are now over on the south at our swing school. Well, that one's being rebuilt.
So, offhand, about how many students are in that school?
I would be guessing, but it's, 350.
So, and has the number of the population for that school grown over time or decreased?
It's been fairly stable the last couple of years.
Okay. And how many houses are affected by a little bit higher schools?
I don't know.
4?
Probably. Okay.
Thank you for making this work. Yeah.
Any other items of new business? If not, before I adjourn, I'll just tell you about next month's meeting. We've invited the Pierce County Assessor Treasurer Mike Lonergan to come speak to us about specifically talking about the multifamily tax exemption.
I think there's been a lot of discussion about that in terms of these various tax exemptions. So we thought we'd actually get somebody who understood it to give us an update on that. And then it ties in perfectly with the second subject, which is an update on Hope in Tacoma. So we will, I'm not sure if we know if it's going to stay on the schedule that it's currently on. If it did, then we will be hearing what has actually been agreed. If there's some changes and it's postponed, then we'll hear about that. Did you have a question on that, Ken?
Well, I was just gonna mention, one thing I'm talking to city council about is the multifamily tax exemption. There is a meeting tomorrow at Government Performance and Finance Committee. And I'm gonna ask them why they are giving a place like Proctor Station a tax exemption. It was originally given a tax exemption for 8 years, and the amount is, I calculated, was about $2.7 million benefit. That's pretty good. But this April, they passed another thing to extend it for another 12 years at $575,000 per year benefit, $6.9 million. And I don't think that's reasonable.
What was the purpose of it?
I'm gonna ask that question. Anyway, so that's the difference. Those are some of the numbers.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. So there being nothing else, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. And we'll see you next month.